For this video, I will provide an overview of the Air Assault unit type, and list the factions which currently have these units available. Then cover some generic strategic applications for squads assigned to Air Assault units to include insight about which opposing unit types are of least and greatest threat to the success and win of operations by Air Assault teams. The United States Army Field Manual describes an air assault operation as an operation in which assault forces, using the firepower, mobility, and total integration of helicopter assets, maneuver on the battlefield to engage and destroy enemy forces, or to seize and hold key terrain, usually behind enemy lines. Citing squad developers directly, air assault units focus on light vehicles, helicopter, and air mobility. They make up for it with a lack of availability of heavier vehicles, but can place an extra ATGM emplacement per FOB. What this means is that air assault units in squad are specialized primarily for offensive operations involving the cooperation of helicopters and ground forces, but are hindered by the absence of armored ground assault capabilities, i.e. mechanized infantry. The real-world 101st Airborne Division of the United States Army provides an unmatched expeditionary air assault capability to conduct forcible entry in support of combatant commanders and played a large part in the execution of the D-Day invasion. Currently in squad, there are 9 playable air assault units, 4 under the Blue 4 Alliance, 2 independent, 2 PAC, and 1 Red 4. Starting with Blue 4, the first of the air assault units is the ADF's 3rd Battalion Royal Australian Regiment, and specializes in rapid deployment and mobility. Also under the Blue 4 Alliance, the British 2nd Battalion Parachute Regiment is an elite unit specializing in airborne and parachute operations. Next, the Canadian 3rd Battalion Royal Canadian Regiment is a respected light infantry battalion known for its expertise in air mobility and air assault operations. Finally, the U.S. Army's 1st Brigade Combat Team, 82nd Airborne Division, is of course renowned for their rapid deployment capabilities. Moving on to independent factions, the first unit is the Middle Eastern Alliance's 91st Air Assault Battalion, which stands out for its remarkable mobility, specializing in airborne, air assault, and complex terrain operations. The second independent unit is the Turkish Land Forces 1st Commando Brigade, and is a highly specialized and agile air assault unit renowned for their rapid deployment capabilities. For air assault units under the Chinese Alliance, the first is the PLA's 161st Air Assault Brigade, and specializes in rapid deployment and air assault operations. Next is the People's Liberation Army Naval Marine Corps 4th Marine Special Combat Battalion, and is a specialized infantry unit designed for high mobility and flexibility, emphasizing boat, light vehicle, and helicopter insertions. Lastly, under the Red 4 Alliance, the VDV's 217th Guards Airborne Regiment serves as a specialized parachute infantry unit excelling in air mobility and aerial insertions. These 9 units have one major characteristic in common: rapid aerial mobility. The key to the efficacy of operations performed by air assault units lies within proper utilization of helicopter assets in direct conjunction with the assault by ground forces. The most obvious strategy for air assault units is to assault by air. Utilizing 1, 2, or all 3 of the available helicopters, pilots perform aerial insertions by dismounting ground forces in direct support of offensive and defensive operations. Dedicated or temporary landing zones, or LZs, are established nearby capture points through the use of map markers or colored smoke, and offer ground forces entry into combative battle space or aid in redeployment and repositioning. Alternatively, discrete pilots can fly under the radar to deploy ground forces behind enemy lines and pave alternative avenues of approach inside the boundaries of enemy-controlled territory. In terms of rapid mobility, assault via helicopter offers the quickest method of deploying ground forces downrange and is far superior to the speed of any opposing naval or ground transport capability. This means proper utilization of the helicopter's haste will result in the uncontested presence of friendly forces and the secure establishment of fortifications without combative disturbance. Another strength of the helicopter is to enable ground forces to maneuver on complex terrain that would otherwise be inaccessible via land vehicles. The ability to land in an area isolated from roads, such as a mountain peak or island, greatly enhances a team's versatile assault capabilities. Finally, assaults are enhanced with the ability to engage enemy targets from above through the utilization of the helicopter's side-mounted weapons. Though not entirely intended to be lethal, aerial gunners play a crucial role in assisting maneuvering of ground forces through suppression, deterrence, and distraction. The second main strategy for air assault units is by means of support operations. Because air assault units are capable of deploying additional ATGM launchers on their FOBs, maximum utilization of the 3 available helicopters will result in higher quantities of ammunition on reserve for ground forces engaged in the destruction of land and aerial vehicles. This reduces the downtime of sentry capabilities and results in a higher level of security of the airspace and territory control. Additionally, air assault units still have access to land vehicles, to include at least 1 heavy armored vehicle. Availability of 3 helicopters used in conjunction with a combative armor and a strategic vehicle repair station is a recipe for sector dominance, as the armor's rearming and repairing delays are greatly reduced. The third and final major strategy for air assault units relates to intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR. Though most units have assigned commanders with brief access to unmanned drone capabilities, the ability to gain live and unlimited line of sight by aerial means is unparalleled in terms of the gathering of intelligence. The confidentiality and secrecy of enemy FOBs and the maneuvering of opposing troops is no match for the helicopter's altitude ceiling and lack of terrain interference. Keeping these strategies in mind, air assault units pose the greatest threat to both armored units and mechanized units. The speed and terrain limitations of tracked armored vehicles enable air assault units to maximize combative capabilities long before the arrival of enemy armor. Upon engaging territory controlled by air assault units, armored and mechanized units will be severely hindered by not 1, but 2 ATGM firing positions. Furthermore, the helicopter's access to complex terrain halts the overwhelming threat that armored vehicles traditionally possess. Where the air assault unit's capabilities suffer is when facing light infantry units, support units, and other air assault units. These units possess additional ATGM capabilities by means of FOB emplacements and vehicles equipped with launchers. Not only does this greatly reduce the security of the airspace for combative assault operations, but also hinders access to provide support to friendly FOBs. Beyond the threat of ATGMs, opposing air assault units match friendly speed capabilities by their equal availability of 3 total helicopters. In conclusion, air assault units in squad possess air superiority at the cost of limited ground capabilities. If the units use speed and their ability to get behind enemy lines, ground forces can have the uncontested advantage of digging in deep long before the enemy becomes a significant threat. However, while air assault units may have mobility haste to their advantage, defense and control of their territory is nothing without hardened security measures, and they will fail without the proper ground support to back them up.